republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recording announcement, the Sunshine Law permits audio and video recording. This meeting is being recorded. Roll call.
Mr. Ely.
Here.
Madam President. Mr. Prescott.
I'm here. Anybody from Columbia?
And help me out again, I forgot your name.
Greg Wilson.
Greg. And
Ray Lynch.
Ray Lynch.
Go ahead.
We introduced gas into the compressor station today. For the neighbors up and down Devonshire, you may have heard some noise. We essentially packed the line with about 900 pounds of pressure in the station. And then once we did that, we verified our emergency shutdown system. And so we blew all the gas off in a controlled release. So everything went well. And so we're progressing. Our rock, we'd hoped to be in at the station, all rocked and nice. It's kind of fallen behind because of the wet weather. We hope to be essentially done by the end of next week.
Is it raining on Jensen Road more than it has here?
Sir?
What wet weather?
This is the driest spell ever.
Yeah,
It hasn't rained for a
Well,
month.
the interesting thing, putting that stone down, they put a geotextile on it. So if it gets any wet, because it's a flat surface, that water's got to get off because it'll get trapped in it. So it kind of hampers that finished grade of all that beautiful white stone. So that's what we're doing.
So you won't be back next month then?
Maybe, you know, they said there's another job here that's outside of Majorsville, they want me to go do that one, so. I love it here, I've been here 2 years, it's great.
I have a question, when you released the gas, was that the night that the old fire companies got called for smell of gas?
No, I don't
Ah,
believe so.
just a question.
Now, in fact, Ray.
Might be a good idea to notify them ahead of time, maybe.
Yeah, I went, notified everybody on Delashon and Lyons Road, anyone around
Yeah.
that.
And
But I
part
meant
of
the
the,
fire companies.
and part of the operations,
Yeah,
is the people that are gonna be running it,
Yeah.
they do the at least 24 hours before, you know. and
They give
overtime.
everybody a notice.
Well, we did extra due diligence and knocked on quite a few doors to not be alarmed.
Yeah.
Don't let him match.
Sir?
Any other questions?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
SWN seismic testing, Bob Hennington.
You on here?
Okay. Departmental reports, Road Department, Ed.
We had a lot of complaints about ditching, the dust. We ended up renting a broom off the contractor's connection, swept Waynesburg, Knox, where we was getting the complaints, we swept them off. Ended the complaints. Petroleum Avenue, we started that project and got shut down due to the fact that we're sitting right on top of a gas line. We're working with the gas company, they're gonna, it's an old steel line, they're gonna replace it with plastic, but they're trying to round up the couplers to go from 8-inch to 2.5 or whatever they use. They're gonna do the digging, and we're gonna do the backfill after we set our catch basins in pipe. The Jansen Road project is getting underway. We've replaced pipes on Waynesburg and Shepherd. The driveway pipe on the loop, letter came back from the county engineer. Regarding the private stone drive on the east side of the road, the entrance to the driveway is not stabilized regarding sedimentation and erosion controls. This area should be stabilized on both sides of the entrance in order to prevent additional sediment from entering the roadway during storm events.
Who was that from?
Nathan.
Was that from Nathan Boydak?
This The existing driveway culvert is currently too short and currently crushed. The field condition exhibit that the culvert has been run over by vehicles on multiple occasions. The culvert should be removed and replaced in order to provide conveyance underneath the driveway. It should also be long enough to extend beyond the ends of the existing driveway limits in order to further prevent future damage to the pipe. The 80 loader's back at South Franklin. The excavator got delivered. I contacted Mark West about Wilhelm Road. They haven't got back to me about making the repairs on it before winter. I have an issue with a bond on Buck Run from Rosscapes. I've contacted him several times about making repairs on Crane and Buck Run Road. He keeps telling me he's gonna get to it, hasn't happened. I don't know what the next step the board wants to take. Write him a letter, or
Is that Bobby Ross?
yeah. And I got prices on winter material. Screen cinders, $19.75 a ton. Number 8 stone, $21 a ton. State approved number 8 stones, $23.70, and the same for the skid. That was Gone Grouting.
Those are all
WD hauling.
state approved and under state specifications.
Yeah. WD hauling, cinders are $20.70 a ton, number 8s are $22.50, anti-skid is $33. Meadowland Supply never called me back. Gone Grouting came in the cheapest again this year. We had some people, when they paved the loop, the berm was a little high where the ditches eroded. Working on pricing, trying to figure out a way to, I guess, reestablish that ditch line. The only thing I've been coming up with, talking to different people, is catch basins installed. Seems pretty expensive to me. A 2x2 catch basin's $435. You're gonna need several down through there to catch the runoff. The engineer said an under drain. Well, an under drain's good for springs and stuff like that, but it's not good for surface water. That hill just got too much speed as the water coming down off of there. So, I'm still working on that. Any other questions?
About ditching on Delshon.
That's, after they're finished, we're gonna ditch the, clean the ditches back out. There's some big stone in there. Probably just gonna haul it back to our building or whatever. We can't leave that laying on the road because the road's hard. And then they're gonna, I think he said Tech is the company that's subcontracted under them. They're gonna put the base coat down on the road and take care of the tar and chipping of the ends. And they're gonna do that section on Lyons Road also.
Okay. Thank you. Fire Department, Eric Graham.
September, we had 35 calls for service. We had $1,200 in fire loss in September. We gave mutual aid 9 times, received it 6 times. We had 13 calls that overlapped other calls, 2 calls at the same time. Our average response time dispatch to arrival was just over 10 minutes. And our average turnout time was just under 3 minutes. Of those 35 incidents, we had 4 building fires, 1 passenger vehicle fire, 1 road freighter transport vehicle fire, 7 EMS calls, 2 crashes without injuries, 2 with injury, 2 crashes with injuries, 4 without injuries, 2 assist invalids, 7 standbys, 1 dispatch canceling route, 2 good intent alarms where no incident was found at the dispatch address, 2 smoke investigations, 1 hazmat investigation, and 1 false alarm. We did utilize 1,174 man-hours during the month of September. We did put our new rescue truck in service in September. I don't know if anybody's seen it out and around so far. That's when we were able to obtain the Assistance Firefighter Grant through the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So their portion of that vehicle was just under $205,000 on a $216,000 price tag, so money well spent there. The station is coming along. We're getting wore out. I was hoping to be totally complete by now, but now I'm hoping for the 1st of November that we'll have it all done. Basically, guys are just getting wore out, and work's slowing down at this point, so that's all I have for the fire department.
Is your parking lot fixed, or your driveway, or whatever that?
The insurance company has sent us a check for a settlement
Okay.
on that, so.
Do anything for fire marshal?
Yeah, I did, one fire investigation, was accidental nature, and had 3 fireworks inspections. 3 permits for that.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you. Water and sewage?
A little bit of information. The Tunnel Street pump station has been repaired, and it's up and operational with the new pumps, the new electrical, whatever was needed there. It was an expensive proposition. I think we're about $33,000 into it right now on the emergency repairs. But it is up and working like it's supposed to be working. The water line project, there's a few extra, I don't have a lot of them. The water line, or water leak down on Liberty Street has been repaired. And so far, we've not been in it long enough to know what the entire effect's gonna be, but there were 2 meters that are involved, a 1-inch meter and a 6-inch meter. The usage of the combined meters has, before the leak was fixed, was a daily average consumption of 84,498 gallons. After the leak is fixed, the average daily consumption is 46,470 gallons, a savings or a difference of about 38,000 gallons a day. So, like, very preliminary at this point, but it looks like a 60% of the water loss was from the 1-inch service line. We'll give you more information as we have the data. Right now, we're gonna get a couple weeks in on it, but it's been a huge savings. Using those calculations as over 1 million gallons a month. So, we'll give that information to you as it develops. That's all I have. Yeah.
Code enforcement, John?
Yes, sir. Since the last meeting, we've got 4 open cases. A letter has been sent on 1 of them. 2 of them have just been recently cited, and 1 was resolved by a conversation with the property owner. That's all.
Engineer Gordon, he left.
Probably we can note that prior to this meeting, we had a special meeting, and the bids were opened for the Jensen Road project, and we received a number of bids in, and they were tabled pending the engineer review of the bids to see which one is the lowest responsible bidder. The low bid was $149,404. Looks like the high bid was $271,950, and a lot of the bids in between. That's for the Jensen Road project, the dirt and gravel program. That's all I have on that.
Gary?
In addition to the report that I've given the supervisors, just want to point out 2 items. We completed the master bond and escrow agreement with Range, and it's ready for signature. And I note that they have forwarded the $5,000 bond required to be placed in escrow. We've done some back and forth with Evan Midler, the project manager for Tunnel Ridge, and we've reduced his memorandum of points to a developer's agreement Sent that to Tunnel Ridge, and we've not heard anything back yet. I'm sure it's being reviewed right now, but we're waiting for that. That's all I have.
Planning Commission? Please, not here, you got anything, Doug?
The only thing the planning commission has that's on the agenda, and that's an approval of a subdivision. So nothing at this time to report.
Police Department, John?
Yes, sir, for the month of September, we responded to 116 calls for service. We initiated 14 new criminal investigations to include 1 burglary, 2
Excuse me,
harassments.
John, how many calls were that?
It was 116, sir.
116, thank you.
Yeah, you guys actually have a copy of the report as
Right.
well. 1 burglary, 2 harassments, 5 thefts, 2 criminal mischiefs, 1 unauthorized use, endangering the welfare of a minor, 1 disorderly conduct, 1 possession of small amount of marijuana. Property loss for the month was approximately $3,800, $3,817 is exactly. Property recovered for the month of September was approximately $316. We conducted 20 traffic stops, investigated 5 accidents. We issued 11 traffic citations, 3 non-traffic citations, filed 3 criminal complaints. 2 active cases were closed by referring to other agencies, resulting in arrests. We patrolled about 4,696 miles, used approximately 290.4 gallons of gas in combination with our contracts. You have code enforcement. The fines collected by the magistrate this month are included in the report. Attached, you'll find copies of the Claysville and Buffalo report as well. We're still in negotiations with Claysville, and they are now asking us to look at the possibility of a 3-year contract. I'm hoping to discuss that with you guys anytime that you want. The new employee, Bradley Miller, has been hired. He has actually less than 16 hours before completing the 40 hours that we mandate for our new employees, before he can fill his shifts. His training should be complete by the end of, we can actually finish it probably by the beginning of next week if necessary. That's it.
Question.
Yes,
Chief,
sir.
have you been contacted by the FBI or the ATF concerning drug sweeps in Washington County?
No, sir.
Apparently, they're making some big inroads, because I know that there was a joint sweep with the city of Monongahela, Union Township, for looking for drug dealers, and they made 9 arrests. And then there was a big one last night in North Strabane, and that was a combination local and ATF.
Yes,
So
sir.
apparently, they're really looking.
Yes, sir. Any action that would occur here,
Yeah.
we would be
They,
included in.
they may be contacted, because it seems that that's where they're heading.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
John, do we have anybody working around 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon, or 7 to 7:30 in the mornings? Or actually 7:30 to 8?
Not on a regular basis. I'll come in usually 1 or 2 days a week early, before 8 o'clock. And then we always have somebody working until, we always cover between 8 and midnight. There are times that we'll add additional hours, now not right now, but we'll add additional hours to cover after midnight. But since I've gotten here, we've provided continuous service for those 16 hours.
All right, there's becoming a problem down in Claysville with the crossing guard and cars, traffic.
Yeah, I know, and I've talked to the school about that, and there's some dispute over what the issue really is. The issue really truly appears to be the volume of traffic. Anybody that follows Facebook knows that we're getting bashed, and it's unfortunate, and I understand, people are frustrated. But, I mean, the other night, there was talk on Facebook about cops directing traffic in Buffalo Township when they were speeding through Claysville. But at that very point in time, and I have it documented, there was an officer sitting in front of Claysville School running speed. The vehicles aren't moving that fast, they're just large.
Well,
And it's intimidating, and I understand her, I've actually talked to the school about this.
and I actually talked to her, the crossing guard, it's not the trucks. She says the cars that she's having problems with.
No, I understand her complaint, and it is being addressed.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Doug, office?
Not much to report. You have the financial reports in front of you. General fund is remaining steady, but it's still weak. We've been watching the expenditures of the general fund very closely, and I think there's going to have to be some significant cuts made in the general fund expenditures. We've had many unexpected expenses this year that has depleted the general fund. And some things maybe later in the agenda that will address those. That's all I have at this time.
Public comment on items on the agenda. Good, JD.
In relation to what you were just talking about, Doug, and the depleting of the general fund. One expense that I could see, and I assume it comes out of the general fund, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the unnecessary advertising for all the unnecessary extra special meetings that, like tonight's meeting, take for example. Is there any reason why we couldn't have just had that special meeting, you couldn't have done it at this meeting, instead of advertising and have a special meeting an hour early, just open the bids, which is something you could do at the regular meeting, and save the expense of the advertising, I don't know what it costs every time you advertise, but in the last few months, we've had numerous special meetings. You have to advertise everyone, more electricity, more, I mean, there's more expense all the way around. Is there any particular reason why we could, like, just, if you just take tonight's meeting, for example, is there any reason why you couldn't have just done that at this meeting, instead of advertising and having a special meeting?
Well, there's no reason it couldn't have been. This meeting was requested by the engineer at that time and day, and that's why it was done.
I mean, another hour.
And,
you know,
and
you
we
could
have, at times, we have perhaps over-advertised because we don't want anybody accusing us of not letting people know when the meetings are. So we do all we can do to let you know.
Well, my point is, if you just have it in conjunction with the regular meeting, everybody knows what it is, instead of having advertising.
And advertising, it's not cheap.
But it's my point exactly.
JD?
Yeah, well, no, like usual, I'm sure it's gonna be denied, but I wanna request, on the record, I'm requesting to reserve my First Amendment right to address each item on the agenda as it's discussed instead of before.
It's not gonna happen.
That's fine, well, on the record.
Anybody else? Approval of the minutes submitted for approval, September 13th, 2017, regular meeting, October 2nd, special meeting, and October 3rd, special meeting.
Dave,
So moved.
sorry, that lady had her hand up.
Yeah.
I just wanted, I don't know the appropriate time to, just a question from Buffalo Creek Watershed.
Probably if we get down to the bottom of the agenda, my guess, Dave. You know,
It's fine.
yeah, we'll place one,
Thank you.
yeah.
We have a question.
Yeah,
Good.
the no parking signs and everything that went up on Main Street.
It's on the agenda, Scott.
I understand that. I also just heard
Okay,
exactly what was
go ahead.
said to JD.
Go ahead.
We put signs up, and I can see this on the agenda. I'm not a stupid man, but we got signs that say no parking, but there's been no motion or anything to that effect anywhere in there. And the signs being up, I've lived on Main Street longer, that part of Main Street longer than anybody sitting in this room. I understand the problems long before anybody else does. And my question is, I see what part of it is, but to take all that parking off, are you planning on not having residents have any visitors? Are you planning on not having a place to park for some of the buildings that you have there? I'm asking these questions because where all the parking was taken from, there is a group of apartments there that now has no place to park. Okay, and there are people, if you have somebody come to your house and visit, there's no place for them to park. There's nothing for that to happen at this time. I also understand that there were supervisors contacted and they said, well, you know, we didn't know or this or that. But my whole thing is, if those signs went up, they went up, you guys are the bosses. You're supposed to be, know why they were there, why they're there. And I understand that there hasn't been anything enforced, I get that. But the sign should never have been there to begin with, because there's been no action taken by you as supervisors.
authorize buying the sign.
You know, I believe me, I've sat in your seat for a long time. I understand how all of it works. And that should have never happened.
So, Ed, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, I'll tell you why them signs went up. We discussed it at the previous meeting,
Okay?
and we was over on the loop patching around mailboxes. Ate up a good bit of the day. We had some time left. We already had the signs. They was already in the building. The posts were already in the building. We put them up. They were not to be enforced. They haven't been enforced.
So you knew what was going to happen absolutely for a fact before it ever happened. So in other words, that all our rights and stuff, those going up, I understand what you're saying. You had the vampire, you had everything there to do it. Those posts went up, all that went up with no authorization from anybody sitting up here. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so they went up, I understand everything there with it, but my whole point being, they should have never been put up regardless, because you don't know how that vote's gonna come down. You can be pretty sure, but you're not absolutely positive. And it should have never happened.
Charlie?
I'm here to speak about that too. The police are on 8 to midnight. We're left alone to fight trailer trucks in our front yards at 2 in the morning. I called 911 the night that there was the hazmat. I had a man actually threaten me in my front yard that he was gonna kill me. The police never showed up. My point is this: we have trucks coming through town. When you have a crew cab pickup pulling a 30-foot fifth-wheel trailer, maybe it's time we look at the lengths of the vehicles coming through town. Now, I'm not opposed to shortening the parking by 1 space on each end, but that parking provides a buffer to keep the speed down on that road. You take that parking away, it's gonna be 70. Your man back here said at the last meeting he couldn't get his cattle trailer through. Well, tough. Go to Claysville and pull it through.
Why should I have to?
The other thing, listen, I have the floor. The other thing is this: he also stated that you don't park along Route 40. Well, that's Main Street of a village. 25 mile an hour. It's not 55 mile an hour as 40 is. I greatly plead with you not to do away with that. If you're going to do away with the parking on that, you have the same problem on South Main. You have the same problem where the churches are on Sunday morning. You have to stop. You have to stop to let cars. We all let cars jockey. You have the same problem on Doug's Road on Highland Avenue. There's countless nights I come through there and you have to pull over and you let somebody pass and you go a little bit, you let somebody pass. So it's a village. And I don't think the parking should be erased.
And I've got a question about that too. We were informed that the parking sign, the no parking signs were gonna come all the way up to our house, which you know where I live, right there on Main Street, okay? I have no other parking space. So if you do that, do you plan on purchasing my house? Because you've just rendered my house completely and utterly useless. I will not be able to sell it at all because there's no parking anywhere. So if that,
I was gonna say egg on it as well when she's done.
and if that's gonna happen, if that's what's gonna happen, and you're gonna put no parking, signs all the way up through that area of town, then you better be ready to purchase my house. Because you've just made it to where I can't sell it to anybody else, so it can become township property and you can pay me what it's, worth.
Go ahead.
I'll stand up so everybody.
I need your name for the record.
My name is Kelly Hunt.
Kelly.
I also live on Main Street.
Kelly, K-E-I, on the end. Okay, thank you.
I think what we need to consider on this, because I too am going to be affected by this, I have a handicap parking space in front of my house. I don't know what's going to happen to that, but I also think, in considering this, we need to consider the fact that, It's going to lower property values. Nobody's gonna be able to sell a house. And it's also going to affect the way the town looks. If you look at Maple Avenue, where that was done, isn't that a lovely sight that we all see when we come in with everybody parked right in, on their front porches in their front yards? And that's what's going to happen on Main Street. You're not gonna get anybody to buy a house. Your tax base is gonna die further than it already is, because these houses are gonna be sitting empty. Nobody's gonna want them. And I think also it could be considered that, you know, people could go down Church Street and come up Liberty and do a straight shot over the hill if they can't make the turn, if their driving skills are compromised. I've lived where I live for 28 years. And I have seen tractor trailers come through this town and make that turn on the first try. A lot of it is the volume of traffic that's coming up the hill, because there's nothing but drilling trucks. I sit there when I come home from work, I see it every day. Trucks with welding rigs, the white drilling company trucks. It's the volume as well that affects, not just the tight corners. I mean, like I said, I've lived there for 28 years. I've seen the problems. But I think that the one spot would help alleviate the problem, but there are alternate routes as well. I mean, if you know that you can't make that right turn, drop down over Church Street and come up the hill and go straight over. Or go down past the Legion home and come up that way. I mean, there's alternate routes. That's not the only route to get from point A to point B. And I think we do need to take into consideration how it's gonna make the town look and the effect that it is gonna have on those of us that aren't. So I'm landlocked. I have one off-street parking and a handicap parking place, and I do not own the land between me and Church Street. Verizon owns it. And we tried to get a hold of them before to see about purchasing that land, and it's impossible to get a hold of anybody. So there are a lot of people without alternatives. Before you make your decision, we just ask that you take that into consideration.
One other thing about that, I don't know if you all know the history of why those posts